All right, so welcome everyone. So the focus of today's meeting, we are going to take some time towards the end to celebrate our SB 79 win. Woo! Yes. The main thing. No, we're save the hype for later because it's going to get hype. Yeah, the main bill we've been working on has passed and waiting for the governor to sign, which we're hopeful is going to happen. So we're going to take some time to celebrate. I know many of us here have put in a lot of work to make that happen or to participate in that process and advocate and learn. And so we have to celebrate. Going to have some food. Going to have some joy. Going to take some time to honor each other, honor people. But before we do that, the focus of today's meeting is going to be kind of previewing what we're going to be focused on in the fall, the upcoming months. And the direction I'd like us to kind of focus is doing what's called,
You got it working?
I don't know, but that's where we need to be, that slide. So focus on what I call, or what's called a house meeting. And so the idea of a house meeting is basically, it's a group of people gathering in a home, or it could be at church, could be in a place, and you're having a conversation, in our context, about housing, be a housing conversation. So I'm going to explain a little bit about what that means and what that looks like in a bit. But I want to first share, why a house meeting? Why take the time to have people come into a home and have a conversation about housing? And so there's some few points that I want to highlight of why I think this is important or why this can be beneficial. And so in a house meeting, the first point is whenever we come together, I think we experience this here every month at this meeting. Whenever we come together and we do something together, it builds connections and it builds hope. It builds a sense of we're not alone in this. And actually together we have power through our connections to be able to act, to be able to do something. We're not alone and powerless. We actually can do something. And there's something about being together that it fosters a sense of hope, that when things feel hopeless, when we feel powerless, when the things we're trying to address feel so impossible to make a difference in, there's something about when you come together, it kind of dispels some of those feelings. And through building relationships together and our connections, it allows us to have the power to act. When the time for action comes, we have those relationships and those connections built that we can actually take action together. And it actually, I hope in these meetings, through our conversations, it'll inform our action. It'll inform what we want to do in this upcoming year and what type of housing advocacy we want to focus on. So as we have this slide, shows this kind of process that we're in of being able to listen to people, know what are our values as a group, as people of faith. What are the things that we want to see happen, and we take those and then we communicate that to people in power, our decision makers, to influence them to kind of make decisions towards what we want to see happen. And house meetings is kind of in this part where we're having space to really listen. What are our values? What do we really want to see? When it comes to housing, what are the solutions, the dreams that we have? And that's kind of the first step. And then the next step is okay, what is a policy that would actually help make that our dreams, these solutions we want to see, a reality? Does that make sense? A couple other points I want to share. This is also a tool to recruit new people. So I'm hoping as we have these house meetings, there'll be an opportunity to invite other people from your church that have never come to this meeting, you've never talked with about housing before, to come and be like, hey, I think you might be interested. Come share your story. What have you seen and experienced when it comes to housing and homelessness? It's a way to bring new people into the fold. And maybe you might think about, there's this other network that I've never thought about talking to, but they would be great to invite into this space to have a conversation. And lastly, I think as I was thinking of the kind of the issue of single family zoning that we've been fighting against, with SB 79 as an example, it's really and thinking about kind of the spiritual undertones, the principalities at work in our housing injustice. To me, it feels like, on one hand, there's a spirit of greed and a spirit of privileging the wealthy, and where this space is kind of taken up for the few who have resources, and those who don't have resources get left out and get left out on the street, where there's no space that is made for people to have a place to live. And I think something powerful about house meetings that I got excited about is that the act of being hospitable and actually making space in your home for people to come inside is a kind of a prophetic witness and a spiritual practice that combats that spirit of greed and favoritism that we're fighting against. It's a small act, but it's in that spirit of the kingdom, of the spirit of generosity and hospitality, that we would actually make space for neighbors to come into our home. And so I think that's another component of like why the house meetings are meaningful for us in the work that we're doing. I mean, house meeting is like a organizing term, but whatever your home is, you know, it could be in a backyard, it could be in the street. That's true. It could be at the park. It could be at your church. I think James was already talking about doing it in his basement or something. Garage? In a garage? Garage. All right, I hope everyone got a handout. This is a little guide on like how to host a house meeting and what the purpose of it is. So I'm not going to go through all of this, but I'm just going to highlight some key points, and then we're going to take some time. We're going to do a little house meeting demo together to practice it, simulation, and you guys are going to give feedback on how I lead it and how it goes. And then we're going to give you guys some time to reflect on like, okay, what would it look like to implement this in my context or in my church? So the purpose of a house meeting: create spaces for people to be seen and heard and connected to something larger that can lead to meaningful change. The organizing principles that we're utilizing in this is that power is a product of relationship. Building connections allows us to take action together. Stay close to your people, and that doing things together builds hope. So for a house meeting, we're looking for, like, it says 8 to 10, but I think depending on your space, how many people can fit, I think like 8 to 12 is a good number. 12 probably max. You don't want it bigger than that. You want it to be like around 90 minutes is the aim. And then even a smaller group can work as well. You have more deeper conversations. And I think the things I want to highlight is that, well, yeah, I guess before I get to the next page, this part on the bottom of the first page, that I think a goal for the conclusion of the meeting, when people leave, we want people to feel seen, heard, and connected. We want people leaving with a sense of hope. We want people leaving with a sense that they're part of something meaningful and something bigger than themselves, and something that can lead to creating change. And we want people to identify, what's the next step for you, to have a sense of, I'm not just going to talk about the issue, I'm going to actually take action. And so I know when I've participated in house meetings, it's powerful. Like, you do feel leaving with a sense of hope, sense of meaning, and like, man, we can do something together. Something I want to highlight on the prepping for a house meeting is that we want you guys to do these in like as a team. So it's not all on one person to host it and make it happen. So I thought of like at least 4 roles that you want to try and have people fulfill. The first is like hosting at your home or your space. I know it's a lot of work to like clean up your home and make it hospitable for people to come. So that is a role in itself, just being able to host the space. And if you want to take on more roles than that as the host, you can. But the other role is like someone who's going to facilitate the discussion, who's in charge of that. Someone who's going to take notes during the meeting. And then someone to bring snacks and refreshments. So if you're the host and you want to do that as well, you can do that. But if you want to assign someone to help with that, that just helps lighten the load so it doesn't feel so cumbersome. So when you guys prep later and you have time to think, I want you guys to think about who in my group can fulfill one of these roles, or who can I ask to do this. Moving on to the agenda. So I'm just going to briefly go over the different sections. So the beginning, you're kind of just going to share. There's a little sample script on there of what you can share, like what's the purpose of the meeting and kind of who we are as a group. Anything on here you can take and modify to whatever fits your context best. Don't feel like you have to just copy everything word for word. So kind of open with sharing what's the purpose of the meeting. Having people share just a little, introduce themselves and share like what's one word to describe how you're coming in to this meeting. And then at the closing of the meeting, have people do that again. What's one word to describe how you're feeling exiting the meeting? Just kind of get a sense of where people are at. And then there's a little spiritual centering. I'm going to read when I do the demo, the little spiritual centering thing to like help ground the time and help. It's a little encouragement, exhortation. So you take time to read that, open up space to see if anyone has any comments or questions about it. And the bulk of the time is really having people share stories. What has been your experience with housing? What have you seen in your community when it comes to housing and homelessness? How have you seen it impact you and people that you love and people that are close to you? So the bulk of the time is really to have people share stories and share what they've seen. And as the facilitator, your role is to kind of affirm and validate what people share, to facilitate everyone sharing in the discussion. So, and then you're going to take some time after you've heard people's stories and people have shared some pain points when it comes to housing. Gonna have a little discussion of, okay, what are the solutions or dreams that we would want to see in regards to housing? And there's a little section from Revelation 21 you can read to, I have some handouts I'll use for a little group here to kind of get people's imaginations flowing of heaven coming down to earth. If heaven came down to earth and was a reality in our housing system, what would be the kinds of things we would see? How does that connect to the pain points that we've expressed? Kind of helps paint a little picture of like what do we want? And then there's a little section if you want that's optional. If you are a prayerful person, you can lead people to pray for the things and really to activate that God is a God of power. Nothing is too hard for God. And Jesus said if we have faith as small as a mustard seed, we can move mountains. We can make a difference with the systemic evil that we're against, even if it takes time. And so you can take time to pray for those things. And at the end, just have people share what's a concrete action that you're going to commit to in response to this meeting. It could be you brought someone new and they want to host their own house meeting to have more conversations with people in their network to kind of multiply the impacts. It could be come to our next Faith and Housing meeting. It could be attend a service project that we're going to have. We'll share more about the service opportunities later that are coming up. It could be talking with a friend about their housing story and having a housing conversation. Those are just examples, and that's kind of the outline. Any questions? Yeah, that this house meeting concept that we're going to practice is there's a long history of this being utilized and kind of being the foundation of social justice movements throughout history. So the one that I wrote, there's like an example in the civil rights movement, but in the piece that they wrote, there's like multiple examples throughout U.S. history. So that's kind of the idea that we're not. This isn't something new that we're doing. This is like there's a long history to this that we're participating in. If that makes sense. All right, so welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. I just want to open up by just giving like a little purpose to kind of what we're doing here. So the purpose of this meeting and why I invited you guys here is that because I really care about issues of housing and our housing crisis and how it affects our unhoused neighbors, people I know personally who are really struggling, and how it's impacted my own life. And I really believe that unless we come together as a group, as a community, that we can't really do something about it. But as together, we're able to make a difference and actually act towards positive change in our community. And the first step of that is really just being able to have conversations and share what we've been hearing and experiencing and seeing. And so the purpose tonight is to really have a space to share what we've experienced as it relates to housing and to imagine what are some solutions moving forward. And we'll also discuss some practical next steps that we can take after this meeting. And I also want to acknowledge that tonight's the first step. We're not going to change our housing crisis, but just really having conversations, being able to share with one another is really the first step towards change. And we're also part of a larger group called the Faith and Housing Coalition that I'm a part of, and that is part of a larger housing advocacy kind of network that is working towards change. So we're really not alone, and we're participating in this as part of a larger group. So we're sharing that. Can we just go around and have everyone share what's your name and what's one word to describe how you're feeling coming into the meeting today? So my name's Alex, and coming into the meeting, I feel, I guess, expectant or curious. I want to hear kind of what you guys have to share. So I'm looking forward to like hearing how our discussion goes. Peter, you want to go?
Yeah, my name is Peter, and I want to say the word is hopeful.
Hopeful.
To see what can come out of it and how I can help.
All right, I love that. Thanks, thank you.
My name is Mati, and I'm curious also to know what you guys share with us and how we can help.
Okay, awesome.
James, I am cynically hopeful. I guess interested, but yeah, it's first steps, I guess.
It's real. Thank you.
I'm Joanne. It's a mixture. I think I feel discouraged by the bigness of the housing issue, but also hopeful that we can do something.
Amen. All right. Thanks everyone for sharing. Before we start, I'm going to read a little kind of spiritual reflection on kind of what we're doing right now and having a house meeting, and then we'll kind of get into sharing stories. So it says, God likes using small, unlikely things to bring about powerful transformation. When God called Gideon to lead the Israelites out of oppression from the Midianites, God used 300 men armed with horns and clay jars to defeat an entire army. When the Persian king gave a decree to allow the Israelites to be destroyed, God used Esther and Mordecai, 2 individuals, to reverse grave evil perpetrated by the largest empire in the world at the time, and to change the course of an entire nation. Their actions started with a simple conversation, fasting, and prayer. As the prophet Zechariah said, "Do not despise small beginnings. The Lord loves to see the work begin." In the US's own history, we see powerful movements of social change start small. In the 1950s, the buses in Montgomery were segregated. Many people knew about Dr. King's role in leading this movement, but many did not know that he did not start the movement. The movement started in the basements, kitchens, and church halls of a small group of working-class black families and allies who gathered, quietly at first, then boldly. These house meetings built the trust and courage needed to face down power. They became the backbone of the civil rights movement. Plans were drawn, carpools mapped, petitions passed, songs shared. A new move towards justice was born. In every deep era of injustice, the first response was not a massive rally or national speech. It was a small group of people, often overlooked, often afraid, gathering in homes to talk, to imagine, to plan. These meetings created movements, and we get to participate in this legacy and continue it forward. As we start small, we Christians do not engage our world like those who have no hope. We believe that the city we live in will one day be made new. Jesus will wipe away every tear. There will be no more mourning, death, or crying or pain, no more poverty or injustice. And in the meantime, as we labor to see things made right, we do so in prayerful faith that Jesus is amongst us, and thus our labor is not in vain, regardless of what we see in front of our faces. As we do our small part, God is also at work. All right, so any comments or reflections people want to share? So,
Because
response to
just
that?
a small gathering can make big changes.
Right? It's true.
Yeah, I liked the story of the bus boycotts, how it really should start small, even though it's like a really big problem.
Mm-hmm.
To hear where they met was very interesting. The basement, wherever they could, but as long as they met together and organized, I think that's the important part.
Right?
So it doesn't have to be in a nice building with AC. You know?
It doesn't.
Even though this one's blowing hard, but
Yeah. I'm sweating already. It's on here.
It's a miracle that you got a house in Beverly Hills like this.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing, y'all. So next, I just want to open up space for people to share. What has been your experience when it comes to housing and homelessness, either personally for you or just what you've been seeing in your community and people that you love? What have you been seeing?
yeah, I would say being near Wilson High School. It's like at the bottom of the hill. I think it's Mariana, in the other street, but I would see Loma. Yeah, so there'll be like I guess new homeless people, you know, things I haven't seen, and then even just knowing people personally that have moved out of there because of how expensive it is, and they've been there for like decades. So I would say that I'm very privileged that I'm able to be in a home that my dad bought like almost 2 decades ago. But not everyone has that type of blessing. You know? So for me, it's like that's how I see the impact. And if I was in a situation where I would have to look for a home or a place for my family, I can imagine how challenging that's going to be with one income because we're off one income. Yeah. So that's kind of like the housing story, and yeah.
So thanks, Peter. There's a few things I heard. One, you see more homeless people showing up by Wilson. You see people who have lived in their homes for a long time having to move out. And then you're like, man, if my family had to find a new place on one income, that would be so stressful. Okay. Did I miss anything?
No, that's really it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll share. Also, what Peter saying, I've seen the change. I've been in my community over almost 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've been blessed to own a home, and I have a tenant. So I know the struggle is real, but I've also seen, man, the homelessness is just hard.
Yeah.
You see it everywhere, and we see it in our community. I see new faces, new people. It's like every nationality, and it's hard because now, there's been a lot of break-ins in the cars. Everything's gone up. There's prostitution. Things that have not been in our community for over 40, 50 years, we're seeing it now.
Wow.
And it has to do with the homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
And friends of ours are homeless. But see, what I know, because I seen it, is that a lot of homeless is by choice. Because homeless people that we know, that we grew up with, they rather do drugs than, they have rules. They don't want to follow the rules.
Mm-hmm.
So I've seen that, and it's hard because a lot of people say, oh, okay, the rent, yes, they're high, everything's expensive, and they can't afford it. But there's a lot of them that are choosing to be out there that don't want rules, that don't want no follow. So it's hard. It's really hard, and it's pretty frustrating.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating because your community was getting better because that's our community was cleaning up. The gang violence went down, everything started going down, and then all of a sudden, it just went back down because they also put a shelter on the other side of our park, a women's shelter, and they're bringing homeless women from everywhere. So that's been a battle that we're going through because I'm part of the board advisory for the park, and we're fighting for that shelter to be get it out of here. You just brought our community down. Like, you can't even, it is really bad. You know, so it's frustrating.
Yeah.
Frustrating, and I mean, oh man, I mean, you know, sometimes you do lose hope and you feel like, man, what can I do? But you know, I know that there is something I can do. You know, just that's why I just like keep coming, and whenever I can come, I just read, and I'm like hopeful, you know, that God is, you know, bigger than what's going on. So
Yeah.
but it's a lot. It's a lot, and you see it, like I said, everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's so discouraging. The trash that you see everywhere you go, sometimes I don't even want to go anywhere because I just hate seeing that. How dirty our communities are.
Yeah.
You know, so it's hard.
Yeah. Something powerful I heard you share, Mati, is like you've been in your community over 40 years and you feel like it's just gotten worse with people are desperate. You're seeing homelessness, prostitution, things you've never seen before. And what could we do to make it better?
Yeah, okay, so I've kind of lived all over LA. I started in South LA, lived in an apartment with like three other guys. No, three other guys. And it was like, you know, South LA, like a lot of shady landlords. We had bees once in the apartment, and the guy was like, I can fix it. And he sent this old dude who didn't even speak English into our house with a log. He just put it under this chimney and he like set it on fire and he was like flushing the bees out. I'm like, yeah, this is what we get for what we pay for in Los Angeles. And then he got married, moved into West LA, which is very different. My wife owned a condo already, and then we eventually had kids, sold that condo, and bought a house. So we live in a really nice neighborhood. But I still see my friends who are like, you know, like living in apartments, and it's just like the amount of money they pay versus the quality is very, very different. And I would say it's actually it's actually wrong. Like, it's not even about homeless people. These are just people who have jobs, who made good choices, but they're still getting screwed by the system, right?
Yeah.
And that says something about how messed up we are. I also work with the church's our benevolence fund. So like this is the part of our church budget that gets used to help people who are in need, right? So anyone who has an issue, says there's a need, they come to us, we try to help them out. I would say 75 to 90% of those requests, both the requests themselves and the percentage of the money, is for rent, because that's just how messed up our city is. And I think that goes beyond choice. I think that goes into like, there's a problem with the system, and there's people on top of the system who don't want things to get better, and the rest of us are just kind of, you know, obeying them essentially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks for sharing, James. Like, people have means and pay a lot for housing, and they don't get what their money should get them. The system's messed up.
I think a story that comes to mind. I have a friend that grew up in the foster system, and so he really doesn't have like family support. And he's kind of gone different places and stuff. And he's currently like in a very rundown trailer in the back of someone's house, and it's actually like technically illegal. And so they've had the police come a couple times and like find them. And so he's been like wanting housing for years, and like I know so many people have like prayed with him and stuff. So he just actually called me this week, and he's like, I got housing in Pomona. So he's hopefully going to get that. But I'm also a little concerned because like his whole support system is in Pasadena, Altadena. He doesn't drive. He has some disabilities and stuff. So he's very like dependent on like our church community and stuff like that. So I'm like, on one hand, really happy for him, but also kind of concerned because I'm sort of like, okay, great if you go out there, but like, are you going to like, you know, lose all the positive support? So like, I just think about people like him where like he doesn't have that family or people he can just move in with, and just like how people like him, like he's been waiting for years, and then it's like the one option he gets. I'm like, it's maybe not most ideal. So I just feel like there's probably a lot of people like him that, you know, they just don't have a lot of options.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing, everyone. For the sake of time, I'm going to move us on to our next section. We have like 10 minutes left. So I'm just going to summarize, I think some things I've heard. I've heard that like we've seen rents are going up. It's getting super expensive. Homelessness is going up. We also see people choose to be homeless because of addiction and shelters that are not run very well. We see this frustration of like, we feel like the system's so bad that our neighborhoods are getting worse and housing is impacting other issues in our neighborhood. And then that people who do have housing and pay a lot for it don't get what they should. And also that if people do get good housing, they get disconnected from their community and their support system because they have to move so far away for it. As we think about all this, I'm going to read a little scripture passage, and I want us to think about some solutions or that we would want to see happen off of this. So this is Revelation chapter 21, some selected verses. This is John, the apostle, having a vision, and he says, "Then I saw the new heaven and a new earth, for the old heaven and the old earth had passed away, and the sea was also gone. And I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven like a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. The wall was made of jasper, and the city was pure gold, as clear as glass. The wall of the city was built on foundations of stones inlaid with 12 precious stones. The first was jasper, the second sapphire, the third agate, the fourth emerald, 20 the fifth onyx, the sixth carnelian, the seventh chrysolite, the eighth beryl." Bunch of stones. Then I saw the 12 gates were made of pearls, each gate from a single pearl, and the main street was pure gold, as clear as glass. I saw no temple in the city, for the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are its temple. And the city has no need for sun or moon, for the glory of God illuminates the city, and the Lamb is its light. The nations will walk in its light, and the kings of the world will enter the city in all their glory. Its gates will never be closed at the end of the day, because there is no night there. And all the nations will bring their glory and honor into the city. Nothing evil will be allowed to enter, nor anyone who practices shameful idolatry and dishonesty, but only those whose names are written in the book of the Lamb's life. The Lamb's book of life. It also says elsewhere that there'll be no more mourning, no more crying, no more pain, no more tears, no more suffering. So as I share this picture of like this beautiful city coming down from heaven onto earth, like better than Beverly Hills, you got like the stones laid throughout the city, the pillars and the gates made out of stones. They're beautiful. Gold bricks, gold places to walk on. If kind of some of that little taste of heaven were to come to LA, how would you want heaven to kind of manifest in your neighborhood? What would get you excited to see change? And think about some of the pain points we described. What would it look like for heaven to invade some of those?
Get rid of all the shelters or homeless shelters, and get rid of the addiction, prostitution, all the bad that's happening.
No addiction, no prostitution. I imagine if all those people who are doing those things because they're desperate, if they had a place to live, or if the facility was run well,
that's a big thing.
You wouldn't see trash. You wouldn't see people getting high. That wouldn't be happening.
Yes.
Just to go off of that, I think what comes to mind, what I want for a community is like people being restored.
Yes.
In the sense of like spiritually, mentally, physically, and kind of part of the program you're mentioning, maybe it needs to change or needs updates or done or ran correctly because people there are just collecting a check, unfortunately. Someone's broke. I'm not going to name the program, but that's all it is, right? And they're trying to speak to someone that's a therapist, but the person hardly shows up. So it's like there's these issues, and it's like, wow, there's this funding, and they're just collecting checks. It's like, what's going on? Yeah, so it's like, anyways, I just for people to be restored. You know,
Yeah.
homeless or about to be, or they're in a rough spot. I think that's where faith comes in with Christ to restore that. That's what that comes to mind. What I would want for all communities.
Yeah.
Going off of that, there's the part in the verse that says that those who practice immorality will not be. But so it's like I think we all realize that a lot of the people, they don't do it by choice, but the people who do it by choice don't want to follow the rules,
Right.
or who aren't, they just don't want to like be considered other people. Like there's a sense that they're not, their society does realize, oh no, like we're not necessarily going to be taking care of you. We're going to be taking care of the people who are like really, really trying.
Yes.
Yes.
The other thing I noticed is that it says the gates are not closed because it's always stayed. I know that in that time, like the city gates would close them at night because then no one can get in and it's not dangerous. So the idea is like, oh, no one has to be afraid. Like, oh, did I lock my house? Or like, did I need my neighbor to watch my house to make sure like someone doesn't try to break it in, that sort of thing, right? It's always like, oh, everything's safe.
Safe.
Safe. Amen. Jen, you like to share it?
Yeah, I heard someone say recently that there's like a bunch of empty parking lots in Pasadena that are just like super underused, and it's like, what if we use that space for like more affordable housing? Like, there's enough space in the city, there's enough money in the city, like for people like my friend who like has a lot of things that have been difficult to like get good housing that will like give him stability. So get rid of those empty parking lots, build some housing.
Yeah. That's good. Well, to wrap up, everyone, thanks for sharing. Again, like us having a conversation today is just the first step. What do you think would be a next step? I don't think the next step is we're going to host a rally, a protest or something like that. But what's the next step to kind of get the ball moving? It could be talking to more people, maybe at your church, of like, hey, what can we do about this homeless shelter? Is this something we actually want to invest time and energy into to actually make this accountable, hold them accountable with all the money that they're getting? Or it could be talking to more people. It could be, I'd like to invite you all at our Faith and Housing group. There's meetings we're going to have to discuss solutions we can work on together as a larger group. It could be, hey, this was cool. I want to host my own house meeting to have more conversations with more people in my neighborhoods, hear what they're experiencing, hear what they want to have happen. Any next steps thoughts for a next step come up for you from this conversation?
I think it will be invite more people, talk to more people,
Okay.
And get together and hopefully find solutions. The more people, the better.
That's right. That's great, Mati. What about for the rest of you?
I really like artistic creative, and I have this game where you can you just take note cards and you go around the table and everyone puts a detail of the city, and you basically build a city with note cards, and then someone says, oh, I want a bus station that's everyone rides for free, and then someone can add something and be like, oh, what if it had this thing, and blah blah blah, and then over time you can build a whole city, like a perfect city almost, through that. So I was like, oh, maybe we can play a game, and help people really envision big, right? So yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
I think, James, your thing about how your church, you have, offerings aside for rent, I think that's really cool. I don't know if my church has that, so kind of that idea of, there's enough, there might be people in our church that have a lot of money, and others that don't, and so it's how can we, help each other out and not just, have certain people struggling. Yeah, just that idea of, as a community, we can bring our resources together and help each other more.
Just to go off of what she was saying is, I wonder how each church can somehow, since rent's becoming an issue, how can the church be able to help those that are about to be kicked out or for rent money or a place to stay in the meantime for a month to get their stuff together with their kids and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be a good conversation for the leaders to have, because things. I would love it to get better, but it's not. So how
Yeah.
can we prepare us as a community for things like that? You know.
That's great.
And I think of Acts 2, where the members of the church were selling their property to meet the needs of the people. I think it's Acts 2, verse 41. So
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, maybe that's an opportunity. I mean, it's fortunate, right, that we have to get to this point, but we could probably practice that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not saying you have to sell your property, but like somehow get together and see how we can meet these needs.
Yes. That's great. So thanks everyone. We had an imaginary note taker over here. I'll be taking our conversation back to our group, and we'll be having some follow up next steps. I'll let you guys know about how we can keep the conversation going, but also take what we've been hearing from these house meetings to inform like how we move forward. Thanks everyone for your time.
Thank you.
All right. And scene.